Hey Denchpegs, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and welcome to my review of the newest EP from UK-based DJ and producer Feed Me. This one is called Feed Me's Family Reunion. I consider myself a casual fan of both of Jon Gooch's projects, Feed Me and Spore. Some of you might remember my review of the debut Spore album last year, which is actually, I think, one of the most disliked videos on my YouTube, just because I talked about it kind of critically, so I'm hoping those same fans of Feed Me and Spore don't come back on this video, because I'm going to be a little bit critical once again. Feed Me's Family Reunion is Feed Me's third EP following the release of his sophomore album, Calamari Tuesday, which I was actually quite a huge fan of. I actually thought Calamari Tuesday made for a better debut sounding album than his actual debut album, Feed Me's Big Adventure, did. Overall, it was an album that I was extremely impressed with, showing off a sound design I had never really seen before in electro house music, as well as a number of other genres that really made for it being a really well-rounded album. Now, the problem with that is, since this album, I haven't been able to find a Feed Me or Spore project that I've absolutely loved. I will admit I did like the Spore Caligo album quite a bit, as well as his follow-up EP, Black Eyed, that dropped earlier this year. But in terms of Feed Me projects, I wasn't really crazy about his follow-up EP to the Calamari Tuesday album, Feed Me's Psychedelic Journey, and I didn't really like A Giant Warrior Descends on Tokyo either. Of course, there were a couple jams on each of those that I did enjoy a little bit, but overall those EPs just really weren't suiting me. I think the only Feed Me projects that I've absolutely loved, other than the side project Spore, obviously, like I already mentioned, were the Kill the Noise collaborations, actually, when he did I Do Coke on the Kill the Noise, a cult classic album that dropped a couple months ago, as well as the single Far Away, which is actually one of my favorite releases from both artists. Now, not to say this EP is bad at all, because I think this is probably his best work since Calamari Tuesday. Of course, this is his longest work. Some people are going to categorize it as an album just because it's 8 tracks long and the other ones were a bit shorter. An 8-track EP is also going to give a lot of options for different people looking for different sounds in Feed Me's music. I can definitely see a lot of people digging the lead single What It Feels Like, primarily because it does a very good job of combining electro and progressive house styles, just like Far Away did, except in a little bit of a different way. If there's a possibility of making Feed Me radio friendly, that's exactly what this track is, because it shows off his production style very well, having a lot of electro house undertones but then continuing into a more of a big room progressive style in the drop. I can definitely see this one being played on EDM radio. Although I didn't absolutely love it, I can see why a lot of people would think this is the big highlight on the EP. The opener, High Speed Weekend Survivor, is one of the best openers of an EP that I've heard in quite a while. In fact, I think this one had one of the coolest sound designs on the entire EP. The intro, the very progressive intro, sounds almost like a 360-degree experience. Just listening on headphones, you can hear the different sounds panning from different directions. I wasn't really crazy about some of the electro drops on this one, but you can expect there to be some down points on this song when it's a full 7 minutes long, the longest track on the EP. We see Feed Me stepping back to dubstep with the track Red Clouds, which was probably another one of my favorites. It has a lot of electronic trap influence as well, and I really liked what the drop of this song is doing, where the synths actually come a little offbeat. And one of the other things I really liked about this song is that both of the drops on this one are completely unique from one another. The first one's a little bit harder and bassier, and then the second one's a little bit more experimental. You can hear some undertone synths kind of flowing throughout the background. Although I did think the vocal sampling was a little generic for dubstep, it did make for, nonetheless, one of my favorites on the EP. I think one of the most unique on the EP is also my favorite, the track Trouble, which I liked mainly for its use of tribal drums that are scattered throughout the drops of this thing. There's a little bit of dubstep influence on this one, but I also like the cinematic influence that is clearly present on this one too. Other than that, I really don't think there's too much to take away from this EP. Stay Focused sounds like a number of tracks that could be featured on UKF's main channel, just really pushing for that hard electro bass house sound that a lot of people have been going for recently. And then of course there's the track Life Raft that's really pushing for that tropical influenced MOOMBAHTON sound that artists like Skrillex have been really pushing for lately. Except on this one, Feed Feed Me's sounds a lot less fresh and a little bit more copycat than most of the other tracks on this EP, which probably made for one of my least favorite appearances. Like I said, this EP is definitely not bad. In a lot of places, I think Feed Me is being very inventive with his sound. Like I said, this is probably one of his better recent EPs, but I really don't think this is as well-rounded as a lot of his projects. Hopefully we'll see a much better and more well-rounded third studio album come out pretty soon, because, I mean, his last one was in 2013. It's time for another album. For Feed Me's Family Reunion, I'm feeling a solid 5 out of 10. If you have listened to this EP, let me know what you think in the comments section below. If you haven't listened to it yet, I have the stream linked in the description so you can go hear it. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you later. Peace.